So we're going to start today talking about polynomials. And specifically what we're going to talk about is not only what a polynomial is, but we're going to be talking about how to describe polynomials using math vocabulary. So what I have here at the top of the page is two polynomials, okay? And here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to go through a number of vocabulary words, and we're going to keep referring back to these polynomials so that I can show you what I'm talking about. So first of all, our first vocabulary word is a constant. In a polynomial, a constant is a number without a variable. So for example, in this polynomial, the constant is this 5. In this polynomial, the constant is actually -4. Not 4, but -4. So it's just a number without any variables. That's what we call a constant. A polynomial may have a constant, it may not have a constant in it. Now, a monomial is a constant, a variable, or a product of constants and variables. And remember, product implies multiplication. So what it means is numbers and variables multiplied. Another word we use for monomial is term. Now each of these, this is a monomial, this is a monomial, this is a monomial, this is a monomial, this, and even the constant is a monomial. Each of these is numbers and variables multiplied together. This is a monomial, this, and this. So each of these are monomials. So you can see that the polynomials that we have are actually made up of monomials added and subtracted. And that's what a polynomial is. So a binomial is the sum of strictly two monomials. So if I have two monomials added or subtracted, that's a binomial. So I can have a binomial that's as simple as this. X minus 1. That's a very simple binomial. Now I could also have one that is not simple, such as this. 5x squared y squared minus, let's say, 7y to the third. That's a very complex binomial compared to x minus 1. Now, a polynomial is the sum of two or more. So a binomial can also be called a polynomial, but polynomials also include more than two things added together. So, for example, this whole thing is a polynomial. This whole thing is a polynomial. All right? The word trinomial, as I'm sure you can guess now, is 3 things added or subtracted. Exactly 3. Then we have the word coefficient. And this is the number or factor in front of the variables of a monomial. So if we look at our polynomial, the coefficient of this monomial is 3. The coefficient of this monomial is 1, the one you don't see. The coefficient of this monomial is 4. The coefficient of this monomial is -2. All right, so the sign goes with it. But all the coefficient is the number in front of all the variables in each monomial. Now, we also have something called the leading coefficient. This is just the coefficient of the term with the highest power. So if we look at this monomial or polynomial right here, the term with the highest power is this one. And its coefficient is 5. So the leading coefficient is 5. Next, we have degree of a variable. And this is the power or exponent of a variable in a monomial. So the degree is just the power. So if we go back to our sample polynomials, right here the degree of x is 4. Here, the degree of x is 3. The degree of y is the 1 that you don't see. Here, the degree of x is 2. Here, the degree of y is 2. Here, the degree of x is the 1 that you don't see. And here, the degree of y is 3. So it's just the power of each variable. That's what degree is. Then we have the term degree of a monomial. The degree of a monomial is the sum of the powers of the variables in the monomial. So this is key. It's the sum of the powers. So let's go back to all these individual monomials. Here, the degree of the monomial is 4. Here, I've got a 3 and a 1, so the degree of this monomial is 4. Here, I've got a 2 and a 2, that totals to 4, so the degree of this monomial is 4. Whatever the powers are of all the variables in that monomial, we're just going to add them up. And that's the degree of the monomial. So let's do something here. The degree of this monomial is 4. Of this one 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 is 4. And this one, 0. Here, the degree of the monomial is 3. Here it is 2. Here it is 1. Here it is 0. And the reason why it was important for us to write these down is because of our next term. And that is degree of a polynomial. The degree of a polynomial is the largest of the degrees of the monomials in the polynomial. So we had to do this to find the degree of the polynomial. The largest of these is 4, so the degree of this polynomial is 4. The largest of these is 3, so the degree of this polynomial is 3. You don't add all these things up for the degree of the polynomial. You find each of these degrees of the monomial, and the largest is the degree of the polynomial. So back to our vocabulary, we have the phrase descending order. If the polynomial is a single variable, which means it just has one variable, like just x, the terms are arranged so that the exponents of the variable decrease from left to right. So back to our examples, this polynomial would not apply because it doesn't have one variable. This one does, it just has x. So I'm going to start with the highest degree monomial, and the next highest, and the next highest, until the constant comes last. This is what we call descending order. And we're going to want to write our polynomials in descending order. So back to our vocabulary, we have similar monomials. And this is something we also call like terms. And you remember like terms from Algebra 1. These are monomials that have the exact variables and powers of those variables. All right? So, for example, x squared y and negative 5x squared y. Both of these terms have x with a second power and a y with a 1 power. They are like terms or similar monomials. Also, keep in mind, if I have a 2xy and negative 3yx, these are like terms. Just because they're not written in the same order doesn't mean they're not like. They're like because they have the same variables and the same powers of those variables. However, if we have something like this, these are not like. And they're not like because they don't have the same powers of the variables. All right, so these are not like. So I'm going to cross them out. All right, back to the vocabulary. Combining similar terms or combining like terms. And the way we do this, you know how to do this. We're simply going to add together the coefficients. The variables and the powers of those variables do not change. And finally, we have simplified polynomial. So if you're asked to simplify a polynomial, this is what it means to do. First of all, combine similar terms. Second of all, arrange the terms in descending order. All right, that's an important part of simplifying a polynomial. So let's go to the next page and we have some examples. All right, we have given the example, we have 7x squared plus 1 minus 12x plus 4x to the third. It says draw a circle around each monomial. So this is a monomial, this is a monomial, this is a monomial, and this is a monomial. Now I circled the minus sign here because the monomial is negative 12x. All right, now number 2, it says write the polynomial in descending order. That means the highest power of x is first. That's going to be 4x to the third. Next, I have 7x squared. So plus 7x squared. Then minus 12x. And finally, plus 1. All right. What is the value of the constant? Remember, the constant is a number without a variable. It's a number all by itself. That's 1. So the value of the constant is 1. What is the coefficient of x? You're going to go to the term that has x. That's right here. And the coefficient is the number in front of it. That's negative 12. What is the leading coefficient? Let's go to our polynomial written in descending order. The leading coefficient is that coefficient of the term with the highest degree. So it would be the 4. It's not the 7 because this is not in descending order. Put it in descending order and then it's the coefficient of the first term. What is the degree of the term 7x squared? The degree of the term is simply all of the powers added up, and we just have the power 2. The degree of the polynomial, which is our next question, is the highest of the degrees of the monomial. So the degree of this monomial is 3, this one is 2, this one is 1, and this one is 0. The highest of these is 3, so the degree of the polynomial is 3. What is the degree of the term 5x squared y squared? We're going to add our exponents together. 2 plus 2 gives us 4. What is the degree of the term 9xy squared? Don't forget, that x has a power of 1 that you don't see. So add the 1 and the 2, and you will get 3. Which term from our example is similar to 7x to the third? Similar means the same variables and same powers of those variables. That's here, 4x to the third. Finally, we have simplified the polynomial. And remember, the first thing we want to do is combine our like terms. So I'm going to look for like terms. I have an x here and a 4x here. That's going to give me 5x. And I'm going to cross them out since I used them now and I don't have to worry about them. I've got negative 3x squared and a positive x squared. That's going to give me negative 2x squared. So minus 2x squared. That's gone and that's gone. And I have a positive 8 and a negative 2. That gives me positive 6. The second part of simplifying a polynomial is to write this in descending order. So the highest power of x comes first. So this is going to be negative 2x squared plus 5x plus 6.